Apart from saving your work as a PSD or TIFF file and sharing it on Behance, you will also need to provide a print-ready PDF in case it's a commercial print project. In this video, I'm going to walk you through all the settings for Photoshop PDFs that you need to be aware of. And I will also teach you a very useful technique to set up bleed and how to create a PDF including the trim marks. Now, if you're not familiar with the print process, don't worry, because I'm going to also explain in a nutshell what all these terms mean. So first of all, where can we save this file into a PDF? It's simple. It's just under the File menu, and you go to Save As. Then you choose Photoshop PDF. And here is the main dialog box in which we can set up lots of different settings. First of all, you have to familiarize yourself with all the different presets. So for example, if I select high quality print, you can see the description here. And it's good to read all of these one by one, but what you should use most of the time, if it's a commercial print project, is X1A 2001, because this is the most widely used print preset for PDF files. This is based on an ISO standard, which is a universal standard. And if you're not sure whether you need this or something else, it's best to ask your printer. In case you have to use a preset, make sure you don't make any changes to the rest of the options. Otherwise, your PDF won't be compliant with that standard. You can also save your own presets. Here at the bottom, you can find Save Preset option. And it's good to know that you can add security on PDF files. You can restrict opening the document with a password, but you can also restrict, for example, printing the document. But to be able to use security options, you would have to switch, for example, to high quality print. And there you can see I can now assign permissions and I can restrict printing. For example, printing allowed only in low resolution quality. I can even restrict whether people can copy text, images, or other content from these PDFs or not. And here is where I can assign the password for these permissions. Under Output, we can find the options for color conversion. And for this, let me switch back to the PDF X1A, which is automatically going to convert every image to CMYK colors. So no matter how many layers you had and even smart objects with different color modes embedded into your document, this will convert everything to CMYK, which is ready for print. Now, once again here, if you need a specific color model that you have to convert your document to, you could change this destination. And in case you have the ICC profile installed on your machine, you can select it from here. So let's say my printer told me to use this color profile. So I can just select that. And then that is going to be the output color of this PDF. In case you want to reduce the size of your PDF, you should go to the compression, where you can specify exactly the downsampling and quality and even the type of compression that's going to be used within this PDF file. There's another preset which I just would like to mention called smallest file size, which is great for saving a PDF that you can use for sending it as an email or include it on a website for a downloadable PDF version. But this is definitely not something you should use for print. But saving a PDF with this preset will make sure that this is the smallest file size possible, while still maintaining the image quality to a quite good level, especially for screen viewing. Now, most of the cases, going through all these settings should be enough, but sometimes you might need to include bleed and trim marks on your PDF. That is something you can very easily set up in Illustrator and especially in InDesign, a little bit more tricky to set up here in Photoshop. So let me show you how I normally do it. I'm going to cancel out of this dialog box. And first of all, let me explain to you what bleed means. Bleeds allow you to run artwork to the edge of a page. As in commercial printing, the artwork is printed on a large sheet of paper and then trimmed down to the size. If you don't prepare your artwork with the bleed, any misalignment while cutting will result with the artwork not running to the edge of the paper. Most commonly, we use 3mm bleed or 1/8 of an inch. But again, this is something you can check with your printer if you are not sure. And now that we know what it means, let's see exactly how to set it up. So normally what I do is I create a separate layer and I fill it in with any color. I'm just going to press Alt or Option Backspace, which fills in with my foreground color that layer. And then I'm going to go to Edit Free Transform or Command or Control T to resize this. Now here you will see the W and H values already on the top, and you can tell what size this document is based on this. You can always change the measurements as well by right-clicking on these values. And as I said, we need 3 mm bleed. But before we do the resizing of this rectangle, I would like to also make sure that one thing is set up. So I will first escape out of this and go to Image, Image Size. And there is a very important option here called Resolution. If I want this to be printed with its current size, in the quality that's necessary for a good print, I would have to change the resolution to 300 ppi or pixel per inch. I don't want to resize this image, so I'm going to turn off resampling, and I'm just going to change the value here for resolution. Now notice that the values will change for the print size. So currently it's quite big, it's 1.5 meters wide, the image, but once I type in 300, I will get a much smaller size, which is a little bit bigger than an A4 page size. This is the size that this image can be printed with a perfect quality, as 300 ppi or dpi is a commercial print standard for resolution. So if I click OK, now I can go back to the option we had, Edit Free Transform, and you see the values are very different. So the W and H values will show me exactly how big the actual size of this image is. But remember, we have to have 3 mm all around the edges that will be trimmed. And the reason why I'm doing this first is just so I can see exactly which parts I'm going to lose from this image once they are trimmed off. So what I will do is click in these values and press down arrow 6 times. Before you do that, also make sure you have this center reference point selected so that the center point of the rectangle doesn't move. So now I can start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then do the same here, or you can just simply rewrite the number, so from 6 down to 0, and then press Enter. You might need to press Enter or return once again, or just click on the tick to accept the transformation. But you can see already that we have 3 mm all around the edges visible because we made this rectangle smaller. And based on this layer, I can now go to the View menu and choose New Guides from Shape. Once I clicked on that, you will see that Photoshop created this immediately based on this layer, and I could even delete the layer now because we don't need it anymore. And having these guides will show me exactly the area which I'm going to be able to keep even after trimming off the 3 mm around the edges. Now the feature I used, New Guides from Shape, might not be available in previous versions of Photoshop, only in Creative Cloud. But instead of using that, you could just do it manually, dragging out guides one by one. So if I just undo that last step and I go back, I just show you, you can drag guides out and align it to that rectangle you created. So even if you don't have that feature, you can do this quite quickly manually. And then, just like before, you can delete the layer by pressing backspace. So this is just a way to preview the parts that's going to be trimmed off the image. So you can make sure that there's no text or any important details are too close to the edges of your image. But if you are happy with it, you can then save it as a PDF. The trick is you are not going to go through the same option that before by using the file save as Photoshop PDF, but instead you are going to go to the print option. So File, Print. Because here, instead of using a printer that is attached to your computer, you can actually export a PDF with the settings that you set up in this dialog box. So let me make this dialog box a bit bigger and go through some of the settings here that we will need. First of all, we need to make sure that the size of the print is big enough for the image. So we need to go into Print Settings and choose the right size. Currently, it's set to A4. And there's all these other options as well. But in case I want to have a custom size, I could also select that, where I can define exactly the size I need. So I can click on plus. So I can type in, for example, 400 for the height and 300 for the width, which will be enough for this print. Then I can rename this as well. Instead of calling untitled, I'm just going to call it custom size, and I click OK. So now that it's set up, I can click on save. And now you see immediately that the page size that I set up will allow this image to be printed. What's more important, especially for Bleed, is to come down here and make sure that the size or scale is 100% and scale to fit media is not turned on. The print resolution should be 300 ppi, which we set up earlier. But then we can go down all the way to functions, and under that you will find the option called Bleed. If I click on that, I can type in exactly the size of bleed I need, so that's 3 millimeters. And I click OK. And once that's added, I can go to printing marks and choose corner crop marks. Once I click on that, you will see these marks showing up on the preview. And that's really all what you needed to change here. Of course, there's so many other options depending what you need, but this is probably the most generic setup that will help you to prepare print-ready PDFs. So now we are ready to go ahead and click on print. But remember, we want to save it as a PDF and not actually print it out. So I'm going to choose PDF, save as PDF. I double check that the file extension is PDF, click on save. And if I check the destination, I will see the Mountain Path print PDF, which already has the trim marks exactly the way I needed it. So this is the PDF I can send to my printer with the correct colors, correct size, and including the bleed and crop marks. So that's all what you need to know about saving PDFs from Photoshop. And in the next video, I'm going to walk you through the way to save your work for the web.